Hello and welcome to the CNBC Africa Special. I'm Rofwa Madzena. We're coming to you from the 2017 SheEO SleepOut at the Constitution Hill Women's Prison. Here is where many women during the apartheid era were held as prisoners for fighting against an unjust system. Today, of course, women that fill executive positions in corporate South Africa have gathered at this spot to fight against the many injustices that women and children still face today. We're all dressed up nice and warm to send a message and, of course, to make a change tonight.
In 2017, the SheEO SleepOut, showcased by the Philanthropic Collection, set out to introduce an exciting special chapter, the SheEO SleepOut. This year, female business leaders were called on to rise to the challenge and spend a night sleeping outdoors. The objective of the project was to create awareness, encourage participation, and galvanize the nation to support and empower vulnerable communities. The event chose to focus on women to offer a platform for current and future female business leaders to come together for change. Initially planned for June at the Union Buildings, on request of the Minister of Women in the Presidency, Susan Shabangu, the event was moved to the eve of Women's Day and the venue changed to the Women's Jail on Constitution Hill.
I'm impressed by the turnout and very satisfied to see women having come together in ensuring that the leadership of women in business can contribute and recognize the women's struggles in South Africa. And by them coming together and sharing their experiences, but also contributing to how best they can move forward as women in our country. The most difficult situation which women faces, it's a patriarchal society. It's discrimination against them at various levels. And these are some of the issues which I am responsible for, in making sure that we deal with those barriers which continues to undermine women. And also recognizing that women are not just women, but also they are professionals, they are experts, and they are skills. And that's why today we are proud of South Africa to see so many CEOs coming together under one umbrella in saving the world of the children, as the late Michael Jackson indicated. So that's what they are doing tonight, committing themselves and changing the world by making sure that children who are abandoned can be nurtured, can also have an opportunity of living a normal life. So those are some of the challenges. But also I must say that some of the challenges we are facing, it's the empowerment, especially economic empowerment of women in our country. And those are some of the issues which I'm looking at, how best we make sure that women contribute to the mainstream of our economy. Some of the most difficult things which we face in our society, it's also about socialization of men and women, where men with their stereotypes, attitudes, still see women as lesser women, as women who don't have capability. And the getting together tonight proves a point that women are capable.
Each year, the SheEO SleepOut event raises funds for beneficiaries who work for one or more of the 5 pillars needed to integrate the homeless back into society. Those pillars being shelter, nutrition, medical, education, and community. In 2017, the focus fell on shelter, especially for abandoned babies and children who are often abandoned due to crisis pregnancies and domestic violence against women. The primary beneficiary of this year's event is Door of Hope, which aims to save abandoned babies and find safe and loving family environments for them.
When the mother comes and places the baby in the baby bin, the sensor will go off, and we have a camera screen in the house. So we will know by the alert from the house that there's a baby in the bin, and immediately the care worker will come and pick up the baby.
I just feel really blessed to be able to have been able to come back. I'm going off to university, and now I have this sense of closure that this is what South Africa is, and this is what the Door of Hope has provided for me.
Door of Hope is seeking additional solutions to finding forever families for our children, and our new and exciting vision is to build a village to do just that.
Imagine if government, churches, business leaders and private individuals could join with NGOs. We together can do great things for homeless children of our nation. We can break the cycle of poverty and abandonment to give our country a greater chance of a brighter future. I would like to extend a warm invitation to all CEOs and business leaders out there to participate in this year's SheEO SleepOut. You can be that difference in a child's life because every child matters. Thank you and God bless.
Nadine Grabham, Operations Director at Door of Hope, expressed her joy at seeing the support from female business leaders that heeded the call to rise to the challenge.
It's really, really awesome. Obviously, we're very, very proud to be the primary beneficiary, and because the cause is mainly for concentrating on homeless children and homeless mothers, to see women here who are most mothers themselves, it's heartwarming to see that people have given up their comfort for one night to come and support and gain empathy for homeless children. As the primary beneficiary, we get a lot of abandoned and unwanted babies. So for somebody to give up their comfort in support of what we do is really awesome.
Door of Hope will use the awarded funds towards the 2017 SheEO SleepOut Legacy Project, a long-term safe and caring village for South Africa's vulnerable children.
Well, we've got a very big project going on at the moment. We're building a children's village for those children who are not adoptable, or who is adoptable but it's going to take a very long time. For now, they're sort of being stuck in the system and maybe not in a strong or stable family environment. So we're building a children's village where we can have these unadoptable kids that can live with a mommy and a daddy in a little house and stay there till they are finished with university and they can look after themselves. So that's a very big, long-term, huge, massive plan that we have, and that is what we're working very hard on at the moment.
The SheEO SleepOut brand ambassador to Lima Don Saila, an advocate for gender equality and the advancement of women, explains the value of this event.
To have an event such as the SheEO SleepOut is important, firstly to highlight the plight of the disadvantaged in our society. Secondly, to also highlight some of the social injustices that we have in society. For example, this year the focus is on violence against women, which is a disadvantage on its own, but there's also a social injustice in that those who are poor suffer more because they don't have options. If, for example, you're in a violent situation, it's very difficult to get out if you are poor. An event like this, therefore, doesn't just raise funds, it shines a spotlight on remaining social injustices in society for everyone to look at those injustices and find a way to play a part in diminishing those social injustices.
The importance of the event is much broader than the show of support and the financial contribution made by the participants. A study done by IQ Business in 2015 and 2016 events reveals an interesting return on investment.
So what we do once we've identified the various different stakeholder groups is we apply a monetized value to each one of the items that has the potential for making a difference to the world. And we start to see that the impact is not just for every rand that is donated. So of the 26 rand raised, that is multiplied to give us a ratio of 3 to 1. So for the 12.5 million rand that was invested, we actually found ourselves taking out and having a positive impact on the world, on the society of 3 times that initial investment.
The study shows that not only did the participating CEOs benefit, but all those around them became secondary beneficiaries. In 2015, a group of students were identified and taken through the SheEO SleepOut.
Those 13 students had a massive impact just on the sense of hope it gave them for the future, that somebody does care about what is happening to them in their world and how things can get better.
In 2016, more students were involved with the SheEO SleepOut.
A lot of us may have been lucky enough to grow up in homes where exposure to executives and wealthy corporate individuals was something that was always there. These students have never had the opportunity to meet with executives, and they're not only that to meet with these people, but to learn these people care about what happens to me. And they are actively focused on trying to make things better so that I have more opportunities. And what we saw was there was a huge increase in the return on investment that was generated from their involvement in that evening and being given exposure to the types of things that we so often take for granted.
The 2017 event certainly drew attention to many issues facing women. Susan Shabangu, Minister of Women in the Presidency, made it clear that equality at a professional level is needed and there's much work to be done to achieve parity.
Recently, a PwC study has come out, which has also spoken to parity in the workplace. And these women are talking to her about that, where we are saying it cannot just be about parity without addressing the payment of women. And we've seen where when a woman becomes a CEO, there's a drop in the salary. And we say, we're going to fight that. We're not going to allow that. We're going to set targets. We're also going to make sure our CEOs are able to mentor and nurture other young women, because the women of 1956, as we celebrate them tomorrow and throughout the month, it was about equality of women. It was also about participation of women in various areas. And we're here today, it's about that.
Participants in the SleepOut arrived at the women's jail on Constitution Hill, brimming with anticipation, but also anxious at spending a cold winter's night outdoors. They were met with rather bleak-looking sleeping arrangements in the courtyard, and upon entering the women's jail, seating was provided in the form of steel drums. Not anything like the luxuries they were accustomed to. A stark reminder that those less fortunate have to make do with much less. To ensure that the ladies had a memorable experience, the organizers provided a host of activities to participate in. They were taught how to make sleeping bags from recycled material.
So everything that you see is from upcycled material, from the plastic to the newspaper, and eventually everything gets fitted into a recycled or upcycled billboard. And that billboard is very special because it's been sewed by women in an empowerment project. So those women who've really been rehabilitated from drug addiction have been given a second chance at life and taught the skill of sewing. So it really is a project that works on so many levels. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow morning, the Gift of the Givers will be along, and they're going to collect all the sleeping bags we make tonight, and they're going to distribute them to homeless people. The beading station is what's going to be run by our school ambassadors. We've got 4 school ambassadors here tonight, and the beading is from the Teddy Bear Clinic. And the Teddy Bear Clinic is for children who've very sadly been through abuse, terrible abuse. And the reason that they're doing the beads is to really engage in conversation how child abuse is everybody's business. And also they'll eventually end off the beads, they'll write 365 on the final beads, and it's to symbolize that we need to be aware of child abuse 365 days a year. So here we headed to the sandwich making station. Now we all know how to make sandwiches, so this is something that all of our SheEOs will be doing tonight, and you can see that Melissa and Ingrid and Sarah are very busy making the sandwiches. And as we said, just as the sleeping bags are going to be delivered to the homeless tomorrow, so will these lovely sandwiches. And they are making cheese and tomato and mayo sandwiches.
Part of this year's SheEO SleepOut initiative is for our women executives to engage in constructive conversations around these fireside stations on the issues that most affect women and children and how they plan on engaging with other stakeholders on changing these situations.
I'm hoping to have a conversation about just about everything, actually, but if I were to pick one out of the many, it's the gender-based violence. It's so scary that you have to look at somebody who could potentially be your uncle, your father, your brother as your potential murderer. It's something that we really need to get to the bottom of. What is the cause? What can we do to change the whole thing? And what can be done to equip women to be able to walk away from such relationships? Because I'd like to believe in some cases the signs are there from the onset, but for some or other reason people are pulled back from escaping with their lives, and even sometimes with their children's lives.
The event was held at an iconic landmark, a monument to the endurance shown by women through our history, the Women's Jail on Constitution Hill. In it, the long-standing history of incarceration and abuse is laid bare for all to see. But Constitution Hill is also a place of contrasts, of injustice and justice, of oppression and liberation. The museum is juxtaposed against profound symbols of human rights, democracy and constitutionalism, making the site a place of remembrance and redemption.
I think this event was supposed to have been held at the Union Buildings, which is important symbolism, as Gugutele has already alluded to. But I think because your theme tonight is about abandonment and homelessness, a prison is actually a far more powerful symbol of one of the many ways in which society, including South Africa, abandons both women and girls.
The somber surroundings and the serious social issues at stake did not dampen the enthusiasm each of the participants felt, sharing the tough conditions and standing together for a common cause.
Definitely not. I don't think there's enough focus. I don't think there's enough awareness from people who are in more sort of, I suppose you can call it privileged positions. I think we can always do more. There's always more that can be done, more conversations that could be had for people, and just understanding the hardships that people go through. I think sometimes we just don't appreciate.
There's certainly not enough initiatives, and I think the few initiatives that there are certainly is gaining some momentum and influence nowadays. But we certainly need to take a lot more time to have a lot more of these initiatives and get a lot more women, not just, I think, senior managers and senior women in leadership, but also other women that are doing great and incredible things that we don't take the time to actually notice. I think this initiative has certainly humbled Taryn and I, and recognize a lot of women out there that really, really stand together collectively, and that's what it's really all about.
There's been baby steps. We need to do far more. I mean, we had a celebration today in commemoration of Women's Day tomorrow at the Zwartkops offices of Mercedes-Benz. And we were just told there, I think around 25% only of women are in senior management or executive positions. But not only that, it's just to give women an equal platform and equal opportunity. And we have to all be those change agents to make sure that we support that and that we can do whatever we can to empower other women as well. And there's still so much that has to be done to make sure that we are fairly represented and have equal opportunity for everything, in everything.
I've been deprived of a number of opportunities in my career life on the basis of being a woman, on the basis of having just come back from maternity. And you don't know how bad this thing is until you realize it. And the fact that until today it's still a topic is an issue for me. I still want to believe that even if God had decided to make me a man, I'd probably be still as equally capable. However, it boggles my mind as to why opportunities should be given to people on the basis of their gender and even their sexual preferences for that matter. So it's a shame that we're still having this discussion as top of the agenda with little traction in as far as I'm concerned. If you look at the number of executives in JSE listed companies, and then you take it to another level and you look at the number of female executives in boards, it's unfortunate that we haven't moved that much. We haven't.
And I think this is the beginning. It's not going to be the last time. I want to see more women CEOs, SheEOs, coming together in a collective, holding hands, sharing their experiences, but also developing a common program, as we realize and see tonight. It's part of a night where women have come out to embrace abandoned children and contributing to a good cause, because they're not only SheEOs, they're also mothers. They understand the pain of being a mother. They understand the importance of embracing children and ensuring that every child has a mother and every child is cared for and can also be embraced by all of us as mothers. So that's what makes me happy. And I'm humbled by really the action of the women SheEOs in making sure that the world is not only a world of ourselves as adults, but also it's the world which belongs to these children. And these are the kids who will be future leaders.
And in cultivating and nurturing future leaders, it's important to support vulnerable women and lessen the risk of them making the tragic decision to abandon their children.
Of course, the money also that is being collected at an event like this is important, in that even though it's not a lot of money, it will make a difference to the people who will be touched by it. We often don't do anything because we feel that people are going to look down on our efforts, because those efforts are molehills compared to the mountains of problems that need to be solved. My view is that it takes many small drops to create the mighty ocean. And therefore, these small things, when joined together, they make a difference and they move the world forward in terms of creating a kinder and more inclusive world.
With the breaking dawn came the sad realization that it was all over, but also the joyful knowledge that the objectives had been achieved. Women rising to the challenge and making a meaningful contribution to the cause.
The experience was, life-changing. I think, one of the things that is quite memorable about today is that it's the first time that women leaders, across different backgrounds and different companies have come together on a common cause. And I think what's memorable also about it is that it's one of the first times that government and corporate have actually partnered to change lives. So, we've interacted as women today, coming from different environments without having actually known each other, but all of us motivated by the same objective, and that is changing lives. So very excited about what we've been able to achieve today.
Bleary-eyed from lack of sleep, members of the organizing team were still cheerful in the knowledge that their efforts were vindicated.
I think it was an amazing night. It's one that will go down in history for the event organizers, for the philanthropic collection, for the SheEO SleepOut. The SheEO SleepOut was one for the books. The ladies were amazing. They loved every second of it. And although we were really cold and hardly anybody slept, we've left with a couple of really good ideas on how to move forward now, I think.
So we did sleeping bags made out of recycled material. We also did beading for the teddy bear clinic for them to sell the bracelets to raise funds. We had various drop-offs, so clothing, baby items that were donated, baby books, nappies, formula, everything for Door of Hope, who was our main beneficiary this year. And then we had sandwich making and bag making for the homeless. So the Gift of the Givers is going to collect everything this morning and then distribute to the homeless community in the area.
The night has finally come to an end. The fires have been put out, and this year's SheEO participants have had the critical discussions about the many issues that are facing women and children currently in South Africa. What needs to happen now is that these stakeholders need to come together and make action out of this dialogue. And while this event has been criticized by many, it has brought together many people who would have never met before and created networks, discussions, and solutions to see some positive change in South Africa. I'm Rohua Madzana, and it's been a very cold night at the 2017 SheEO Sleepout.